Good morning, everybody. It is Monday, March 8th, 2021. My name is David Doty with Call It Closed International Realty. And here on the line, we have Cody Powell, expert buyer's agent. He's also with Call It Closed, based in the Harrisburg, East Concord area, North Concord area. And Cody Powell, we'll just get you going. If you could, tell us how long you've been in real estate.
Hey, everybody. So I've been in real estate for right at 6 years. So I started when I was 20.
Cody, I'm sorry, man. We can't hear you.
You can't hear?
It was kind of cutting in and out. I can hear you now.
Okay, how about now?
Yep.
Okay. So I've been in real estate for 6 years now. So I was 28 now, so I was 22 when I got licensed.
Good for you. I wish I had started that young.
Yeah, I wish I would have started sooner, but I'm grateful for what I did.
So what made you choose real estate as a career?
Well, so as you explained, the first brokerage I worked for, the broker in charge there was friends. He went to high school with my mother, so they were good friends. And I went to a few of his Christmas parties at his very, very nice house, and kind of got intrigued there, just seeing the lifestyle that he was able to provide for himself and his family. So before that, I worked a few hard jobs, kind of like concrete work, and I quickly realized that I didn't really like doing that. So kind of picked his brain, and he gave me the ins and outs of kind of how the whole business worked, and pretty much told me if you go get licensed, then you can come in. Is my audio still in and out?
Yeah, it's cut out a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm using my laptop mic, so I don't know why it's having an issue. Did you hear everything I was saying?
I could make it out. It just wasn't very clear.
Okay. Sorry about that, guys. I don't know why. Anyway, so basically, I just kind of saw what it was like helping people, meeting new people, being able to show homes, and really, really liked the idea of it. So I went and got licensed, and basically just started shadowing him for about a year and a half at that brokerage.
And then you walked into the Remax office and said you wanted to join a team. That's
right. So I wasn't really getting the clientele that I was hoping for at the first brokerage. So a guy at the office had worked for Remax Leading Edge before and told me to check them out. And it was just good timing that when I went up there, you had been starting to want to develop your own team. So, we met and had coffee and decided it was a good match. And that's just where everything started.
Awesome. Well, I'm grateful. One of the things that I learned, Cody, we got some feedback going on. Hold on one second. Let's see if I can mute everybody so we don't have that feedback. I think that's better. One of the things that I did, and I mentioned to you, and I think that time that you had at your first brokerage was good because I didn't have any kind of training. We come out of pre-licensing, we get our license, and boom, we hit the street. And I was out there networking and trying to build up a business, but I had zero training. My first transaction, I listed an email once we got under contract, and I sent it to the listing agent and said, the buyer's requesting these things get fixed based off the inspection report. And his response was, there's a form for that. And I had no clue. I just made a fool of myself many times. But you always impressed me because you knew a lot more than I did, especially when it came to buyer's agency. How do you qualify a buyer when you get a phone call from a friend or a Facebook message or whatever? Somebody says, "Hey, Cody, I want to buy a house." What's the first step that you take to qualify that buyer?
So, like we're taught, the very first thing that I do is have them speak with a lender. Always, I tell each client, it doesn't matter to me who you use to finance your house, but I have a good relationship with, a few lenders myself. I don't get anything out of it except a smooth process, and you get good service. So it's a win for everybody. So the very first thing I like to do is get them pre-approved, credit verified, income documentation verified, bank statement, everything. Basically pre-underwritten is what I like to do, because in my early years, I've had a couple of transactions where we were told we were good to go, put a house in a contract, pay our deposits, and then 2 weeks later they tell us they can't do the deal because they missed something. Thankfully I've never been blamed for that, which is not my fault, but you guys know, being the agent, it's easy for us to be the ones that are blamed. So learning from those situations, I make sure that they're basically almost conditionally approved, through underwriting, before we really get hot and heavy into looking at homes, especially in today's market, because it's funny, most people who are buying homes are actually, a lot of the times, they're more educated than us, in what they want. If they're looking for a specific region, they're looking 10 times a day at what's coming available and what's selling in that specific area. So thankfully, a lot of buyers today know that, how hot the market is and how things are selling in hours, or selling, coming soon, sight unseen, large cash, or large amounts over list price and everything. So, you really can't, it's hard enough to win a bid these days anyway, but without having that pre-approval, there's absolutely no chance of getting an acceptance.
I agree. And one of the things you said is absolutely key. Have the buyer become fully underwritten. You don't want a pre-approval or a pre-qualification. And there's been a lot of talk over the years about pre-qualified versus pre-approved and how one is better than the other. But truth is, neither one of them are really all that good. You need a loan commitment letter. You need a letter from the lender stating that this person is fully underwritten, like Cody said.
David, a quick question. If it is underwritten, isn't it like they are supposed to close within 60 days, or else they are subject to go through the paperwork all over again?
So that could be Hari, and that's a great question. But then they wouldn't have to do necessarily everything all over again. It's just they might need the latest pay stubs and bank statements and things like that. So it wouldn't be the whole process all over.
Okay, one more follow-up question. So by asking this much, pre-qualification from the buyer, wouldn't we scare them away because we want them to be 100% qualified and losing the lead?
Well, and yes, that's possible. But how many of us have spent time driving people hours and hours looking at 20 different homes only to find that they don't buy something anyway?
Yeah.
So I would personally rather scare somebody away than to haul and hope. And Cody, would you add anything to that? I guess you could also talk about the scripting and how you have that conversation. Can't hear you, Cody.
How about now?
Yep. Good. Thanks. Oh, there you went. Lost you. We can't hear you. Oh man, we're gonna have to get Cody an external mic. But I think one of the ways that you have that conversation, Hari, is to tell somebody, look, the market is red hot. It's difficult out there. It is brutal for buyers right now. If you want to buy a house, this is the way that we have to go through it. We have to get you fully pre-qualified, fully underwritten up front in order for you to be able to have a competitive offer.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Can't hear you, Cody. My next question was going to be, how do you decide what properties to show? And Cody, maybe if you try leaving and coming back. And Hari's on the screen now. Let me change the view. Okay.
David, what if the lender, I've had conversations with lenders, they don't want to do the pre-underwriting because it's so crazy right now, so they're not willing to do that. You just go to a different lender or try to find the one that would do it?
Yeah, I would definitely look for a lender who is willing to do that, and talk to your buyer about that too.
Okay.
Cody's coming back. the next question was going to be, how do you decide what properties to show? In this market, as Cody was saying, these buyers are scanning and they know what's out there sometimes before we even do. And so that's kind of a moot point. And when it's time to make an offer, what do you do first? And I would recommend that you get on the phone or even a Zoom call with your buyer clients, because fill out that offer to purchase, especially if you're new and you haven't done it a ton of times. Fill out that offer to purchase form with them on the phone or in person, so that you know exactly what you're going to put on each line of that contract. Because you'll say, okay, they'll say, all right, let's offer, 250,000 on that house. You say, okay, great. I'm going to go home and write it up right now. You go home and you're like, okay, what about the earnest money? What about the due diligence? What about the closing date? What about the due diligence date? Wait, did they want the refrigerator and the washer and dryer and all of those different things? So it's important, especially as you're new and you don't have all of those things necessarily with you. Have a blank. I used to carry a blank offer to purchase in my glove box, just in case. You just never know. And of course, now with app files, you can access it right on your phone. But have that conversation while you're with the buyer. Cody, can we hear you now? Barely. Yeah, we can't hear you, man. I'm sorry, Cody. We should have practiced this first. Who would like to? Tim, you've sold a number of homes. Would you call the listing agent to let them know that you're going to be making an offer, or would you have any other questions for the listing agent?
I absolutely would call if we're going to make an offer, I'd let the listing agent know. I'd also want to try to find out if there's multiple offers on the table or any offers as of yet. And what can we do to help your client, your seller? Do they need maybe some carryover time after closing to get moved? What are your client's needs? Those type of questions. Do they have an attorney that they prefer to use? Do they, I don't know, whatever, maybe their specific needs are. Do you have a favorite attorney? Do you have a favorite lender that you prefer to work with?
Yeah, those are all great questions. And what this does, number one, having that buyer fully underwritten and then being a great communicator with the listing agent, it will build your reputation as a professional. And so I know when Cody's out there making an offer on a property and the listing agent has worked with Cody before, they're going to give more weight to Cody's buyer's offer just because they know that it's not going to fall through, because Cody has such a great reputation. Cody, can we hear you now?
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, that's so much better.
Okay. I'm on my phone. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you, T. All right, so we'll get back onto it. So we were talking about it's time to make an offer. What do you do first? And I was saying that have the buyer with you, or at least on the phone or something like that, so you know when you're going through filling in all those blanks on the OTP, how to do that. And I agree, Hari, it is awesome to hear Cody's voice. Cody, any other tips on filling out the offer to purchase, or any other tips on what you would do first when it's time to make that offer?
Well, so like you said, it is good to have them, if not in person, on the phone. That way you can go through each item in the offer as far as terms go, right? I always like to over explain things and under explain. A lot of times I'll probably tell my clients more than they need or want to know. But if anything ever came back unsatisfactory, then they were aware of it, right? So what I've started to do as of late, because the market's so competitive, is I'll actually reach out to the listing agent and just ask, are there, I'll specifically say, I'm not asking for specifics, but are there any items as far as terms that the sellers care more about than others? Most sellers mostly just care about overall price, but some care about the loan type, some care about closing dates can be a big thing, you know, if they're moving themselves. So they may accept someone else's offer with a lower offer price because the closing date is more favorable. So I always like to ask that because every situation is different, right? Every seller wants something, you know, might want something different. So usually that's the first thing I'll do before we make an offer is say, hey, what do your clients need to make it more favorable for them? And then, you know, I'll collect the terms for my clients as far as what they want to offer, you know, with coaching, let them know, especially in this market, you pretty much have to offer what you're willing to lose the house for, basically, you know, especially when it's a multiple offer situation, first day on the market, you know, we've all been there. So once we agree on what we want to offer and we're comfortable with that, it honestly depends on my relationship with the client. If it's a personal relation or a referral, you know, I'll collect their terms, fill the offer out, send it to them and say, hey, if you want to go over the offer over the phone, we can. You know, if you have a trust relationship there, most of the times they'll just sign it because they trust you. If it's someone that, you know, I'm working with that's new, sorry, I was reading that note. If it's somebody that I'm working with that's new, I'll call them and actually go over the offer with them as they're signing it, just so they're comfortable. You know, it is. Me and my wife just went to the car dealership yesterday. We were there for 5 hours, and anybody that's bought a new car, you know how nervous you can get filling out all the paperwork, not knowing exactly what it says. So same thing for buyers. You know, if it's someone that doesn't know you personally, it's really important, in my opinion, to build that trust. So taking the time to go over the offer with them, all 15 pages, really helps them trust you and your knowledge.
Awesome. Thank you for that. What kind of car did you guys buy?
She's back in another Altima, in a mommy car. So
Nice.
had to get rid of the Challenger.
Okay, awesome. So let's say best case scenario, we're jumping up and down celebrating because they select your offer over the 23 others that came in over the weekend. What do you do Monday morning? You got your offer accepted. What's the first thing you're going to do? First couple things.
Yeah. So the first thing I do, and you know, you've got to have an updated approval letter, right, from your lender. So I always like to try to get an approval letter that's close to the dollar amount that we're offering. You know, and realistically, it may not matter. That's just something I learned from my first broker in charge, you know, because he's been in the industry for 40 years. So I'll get an approval for them, you know, right at or close to the price that we're offering. Go ahead and let them know, hey, we're putting this offer in. And the very first thing I want done is I want the appraisal order, very first. Realistically, most of my due diligence periods are at least 3 weeks. You know, I don't like going less than that, especially if it's a VA loan, FHA loan. But the very first thing I want done is an appraisal ordered, you know, because it can take up to 14 days depending on the loan type just to get accepted. So, and then another 2 or 3 days for the report to come back to the lender. So first thing, get the appraisal ordered. I know a lot of agents like to order everything at first. I always tell my clients I don't like doing that. And the reason is I try to reduce their financial liability in the house, right, in the deal. So they're automatically going to have their due diligence fee right out the gate. So they're already, you know, they're already out of pocket that money. Now we're going to order a $500 appraisal, $500 or $600 appraisal. So now they're out of that money. You know, that's realistically, if they terminate the contract, they don't get that back. So if we have time for it, we do the appraisal first. That way, if the appraisal comes in less or it's conditional upon some type of repair, we can negotiate through that. If the sellers don't want to work with us and we have to terminate the contract, well, now at least they didn't lose out any inspection money. That's why I do that. So once we're through the appraisal process and we're all good to go there, then I'll go straight into the inspection process. You know, I'll coach them through it. I was always taught new, you know, home inspection and termite inspection. That's it. But through my experience, I've started, you know, educating my clients on well inspections, septic inspections, the importance of it, right, and the cost that can come with it if you buy a home with a bad septic system. water testing, radon testing, and most people don't get that stuff, but at least they know about it, so they can't blame you for not telling them if they do have an issue. So once we do that, we go straight into the inspection process, have all that done, and then, you know, negotiate any repairs, replacements, anything like that, credits at closing, however we need to do it to make the deal work.
So how do you negotiate repairs? I mean, I've had some success and some not. I've got a house under contract right now. I'm representing the buyer, and we sent in the repair request, and it was just a couple things. I mean, the house was built in 1983. Overall, it's in good shape. But they asked for a couple things, and the seller literally on the DDRA put a line through each thing that I had requested and wrote no in capital letters next to all three of them and sent it back to us, which I did not forward on to the buyer.
Right. Good.
But
Good choice.
what would you do in that situation, or in a typical repair?
Yeah. So if they don't want to, let's just say worst case scenario, and they come back and say, we're not doing anything for you, right? And I'll let my clients know this beforehand, just to step back. I always tell my clients, for every aspect of a transaction, I tell them the worst case scenario for, you know, inspections, appraisals, all that. And I tell them the best case scenario. And then I tell them what normally happens, right? So they know all three outcomes that could happen. That way they're not caught off guard. So if we do get a repair request back that the seller say, no, we're not doing anything, I'll call the listing agent, you know, first before telling my clients that, and say, hey, realistically, you know, I see they're not wanting to do anything. What are they willing to do for us to make this deal work? You know, I know you guys want to close. We want to close. If, you know, you don't want to go back on the market and pay another month or two in, you know, mortgage carrying costs. So what do we need to do? Maybe they won't fix things. Maybe they'll give you a closing cost or a credit at closing to pay a vendor to fix something. Versus, because, you know, a lot of times sellers don't want to take the time or the burden to fix things themselves while they own the house, but they're more willing to just say, hey, take this $1,000 and go, you know, fix the front door or whatever's wrong with it, you know, go do it on your time, and we won't have to worry about it. But if they do come back and say, we're not doing anything, we're not giving you any money, any closing costs or anything, realistically, you know, I'll have to convey that in a nice way to my buyers so they don't get upset or emotional, because we want to keep everything transactional and not emotional, right? That's the goal. So basically tell them, hey, you've already got $2,000-3,000 invested in the house. If you terminate the contract, you're going to lose that, right? The only way to get this money back, your deposits, is to close on the deal. So let's say you got $3,000 wrapped up in deposits, and then you have another $1,000 to $1,500 wrapped up in inspections and appraisals. So now you're going to be out of pocket $4,500 over a $1,000 repair, depending on what it is. If it's something serious, you know, structural, it needs a new roof, you know, that's $10,000. If it's something large like that, then it makes sense to back out of the deal. But I try to put it into perspective. Are you willing to lose $3,000 or $4,000 over something that realistically, you know, isn't that big of a deal? It's just more of a principle thing for you at this point. But psychology, right? We all have to be psychologists sometimes, therapists when it comes to taking care of our clients.
Absolutely, that's true. We are as myself personally being a pastor, I never realized how much individual and couples counseling I would be doing in this business.
Yes, absolutely.
Angie's got her hand raised, so we're going to let Angie say something or ask a question. But I just wanted to add, when you mentioned the roof, and this is true, and if there's something, every single time, whether I'm a listing agent or a buyer's agent, and there's a problem with the roof, have an inspector come out there and see if the homeowner's insurance will cover it. Because if there's hail damage or something like that was caused by nature, there's typically you're able to get it replaced by the insurance company. And most roofers, and I have a great roofer in the Charlotte region, who will waive the deductible and cover and basically repair or replace the roof for whatever amount the insurance company is willing to pay. So,
yes.
Angie, did you
Yep, I just wanted to add one thing. Something I do with my sellers is there's a couple warranty companies that will do a listing warranty, it's called. So if you call and get that set up when you go under, like right as you go under contract, the seller's able to use it for repairs that come up, or the buyer, it transfers to the buyer if someone pays for it. So either the buyer or the seller could pay for it. And there's no waiting period if you use that type. So that's one thing I do, because then you don't have to ask for any of the appliances or system repairs that are covered by the warranty.
Thank you, Angie. That's a great thought too.
Dave, can I make a comment?
Please do.
I wouldn't rely on the inspector's inspection of a roof, because they're not going to get on the roof unless it's a low roof. But they're going to stand on the ground, look at the roof with binoculars. If you've got any serious concerns about that roof, you better get a roofing inspector out there to get up on the roof and check it out. By doing that, I mean, I was about to lose a $415,000 sale because of that. We got a roof inspector up there to look at the roof, and he came back and says, well, that's a slam dunk insurance claim right there. So we got a new roof on the house and was able to get the deal closed pretty much because of that. But there are certain things that, you read these inspectors reports, you can't always rely on everything they say in that inspection.
Right. Yeah. Something just to touch on that, something I've learned, you can use an inspector, right? Inspectors know a little bit about everything, right? They're not, the way I see it, most of them are not experts in one subject. So a lot of the times, they'll write things up and it's all good information, but I have had it to where they wrote something up that, needed to be fixed or corrected, repaired, replaced, something along those lines. And so when I contact a technician in that industry, whether it be HVAC, plumbing, roof, what be it, they come back and say, hey, well, there's really nothing wrong with this. This is appropriate for the home. So don't be, I tell people, don't be surprised if that does happen. It's not that the inspector doesn't know what he's talking about, but it's impossible. We're all humans, for a human to know everything about every, different thing that could be in the house. So, so just to touch on that also, that the inspector's word isn't always, it's a good starting point and a good reference, but it's not 100%, guaranteed that something they write up could actually be an issue that needs to be fixed.
Yeah. And another thing to do once you get under contract is look at that due diligence date and put it in your calendar with a reminder. So when due diligence is March 12th, I've got two houses under contract right now that due diligence runs out on the 12th.
Yeah, me too.
I need to be aware of that, right? So that when I see that date approaching, I make sure that we have our repair negotiations complete. We have that appraisal back. I'm working with the sellers to make sure, are you sure that you want to continue whoever my clients are, whether it's buyers or sellers, are you sure you want to continue? Have you done all of the due diligence that you need to complete during this due diligence period? Because at 5 p.m. on the 12th or whatever that date is, you will lose your earnest money if something falls apart. So the loan needs to be done. The appraisal needs to be back. The inspections need to be done. We need to be 100% fine with where we're at and continuing on in this transaction.
Yep.
Be afraid to ask for an extension if you need it.
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tim. And then, so once you get through with the repair negotiations, the appraisal has come back. The next big step is getting that clear to close, where the paralegal at the attorney's office sends you out that HUD if it's a cash deal or the closing disclosure. Cody, any tips on how to review that CD or the HUD?
So I always look at both the preliminary CD and the final, because it's not uncommon for there to be a slight difference between the two. So I always look at the preliminary as soon as possible, right? Because they have to have that out before, within 3 days of closing. So make sure that all the numbers are correct, even commission, not be, just to make sure that they're not charging more or less, to the seller than should be. So I check every single item to make sure it looks right, outside of, homeowners insurance, escrows and stuff like that, because that's handled between the client and the attorney. But anything that I have knowledge of, or that I can kind of point out and say, hey, this doesn't look right. For like the one example is the transfer fee. I can't remember what it's called, but the fee from HOA ownership. So buying into an HOA. I believe previously, I think it was 2015, they changed it, but previously it was charged to the buyer, right? So the buyer had to pay that. And then the contract changed it to where it was a seller cost, and the attorney didn't catch it. So I was able to catch that representing a buyer and save them a few $100s, just by not charging them that. So I always review the preliminary, and then I'll review the final CD also, and make sure that if anything needed to be corrected, has been corrected. And then I go over it with my client also. So I like to go over it personally. Either we can do it over the phone, or we can do it at a walkthrough. I like to print it out and take it to the walkthrough with us when we're doing our final walkthrough, and go over it there.
See, I'm always learning from you. That never even occurred to me to do that before. That's why you're the best, Cody.
Oh, thank you, David.
So you get to closing. A lot of attorneys these days are not even allowing us to go to closing. So it's kind of nice. I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm selfish or whatever, but I like sitting here and getting paid from home.
Right.
But traditionally, when you go to closing, do you do a closing gift? Do you, or after closing, do you do anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've done it both ways. I've tried a few different things. I think I can't think of the company, but they sell closing gifts to realtors in the Charlotte area. I've tried the Cutco knives, and have your name engraved on it and all that. And that's, a lot of people like that depending on if they use cutlery. But gift cards, if let's say you have a husband that has a lot of projects ready for the home, like, I can't wait to buy it and paint this and build this fence, or make their own touches on it. Maybe get them a gift card to Lowe's and say, here you go, have fun with your project. Just kind of add a personal touch to it. The little nice pieces, the little wood art pieces that has like their last name on it. Anything that you can give them, I think, that has a personal touch, instead of just giving them a generic, gift. I think that adds more value, just having that personal feeling to it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the Cutco knives, and I used to do, like, the Doty team at Remax Leading Edge. Some people have done, your realtor, Cody Powell, whatever. The most recent ones that I did, there's a guy out in California that I was doing some networking with, and he actually said, instead of putting your name on it, why don't you put the family's name on it? And they're going to keep it forever, and they'll always remember that you were the one to give it to them. And that changed the dynamic. And so I started doing that. I mean, they're expensive, but we put the first one I did was a family called the Huddlestons. They moved from here. They left my community and they moved away to Nashville. Now, why do you want to send a closing gift to somebody who left the state? Well, they still know a lot of people, and there are a lot of people moving to Charlotte, so you want to create a lifelong memory for those people. So I sent a Cutco knife, and it said, to the Huddleston family, welcome home. And, Ashley called me afterward and said that was the best closing gift that they had ever gotten.
Yeah. And they keep it forever. They'll have it forever.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely do that. And Brent sold Cutco knives. That doesn't really surprise me, Brent. Awesome, man.
So you're giving one knife?
I usually do like one knife, or maybe like just like a set of two, like for serving or something like that.
And I think you can kind of set up structures as far as the price of the home, really, right? So if you're selling a higher end home to a higher end client, I think it personally is probably better to give them, if you're going to do a closing gift, do something a little bit more luxurious, right? So it's kind of, I kind of look at it like it's a ratio to the size of the purchase. But You know, the cool thing about Cutco, it's not like you're giving them a steak knife. You know, they have, and Cutco is a great option, really is, because they have lifetime warranties. But you can give them like a large chef knife, a trimming knife, you know, a cheese knife set. So that is actually a really good gift to give people.
I agree.
I
Angie
just
said,
didn't know if you were giving them a full set.
yeah, that better be a really nice house. You don't want to blow your whole commission. That's what
would.
realtors do. That's what realtors do. The average realtor spends 120% of his or her income. It's like,
Right.
you know, if not for our spouses, we would all be broke, right?
Be broke.
Keep your money, people. Keep your money. Angie said she gives cut cords with the cutting boards with the closing date. I'm sorry, I'm trying to keep up with all the messages and everything. I left my script. So we've got closing. After closing, what do you do if you give a closing gift? What's any other thoughts, Cody? Any other final thoughts?
Well, so I like to check up, you know, they say it's good to stay in contact with your clients, right? We all know that. That way you stay relevant. I mean, how many of us have been on Facebook and you see an old client buying or selling their house with somebody else? We all know how bad that hurts. It's probably the worst feeling in the world. It's like your girlfriend or boyfriend breaking up with you when you're 13. It's the worst feeling, right? So why is that? It's because they forget about us. You know, unless you have a personal relationship, you know, it's a friend or family that you see all the time. You know, years go by and people do forget about, you know, we just lose contact. So staying relevant is a big thing, in my opinion. Posting, I always add my clients on Facebook. That way we can stay in contact there. They can see how my life's changing. I can see how their life's changing. I try to do good at posting a lot of my real estate stuff on social media, because it's a free advertising platform, right? And probably one of the best. So immediately after closing, you know, I always like to tell people, hey, when you guys get moved in and settled, give me a call. You know, I'd like to come over and see how the house looks, right? Because buying a home, especially buying and selling, is very emotional for our clients. So you being with them every step of the way and providing excellent service, it really creates, it has the opportunity to create a strong relationship. So if you can, you know, go over there 2 weeks after they move in, check it out. Oh man, your house looks great. I love your decorating. I love your painting. You know, what be it. I think that's a good thing to do, you know, because they're still excited. You know, they're happy. All their, you know, within 2 weeks, you know, their friends and families have come over to see their house. So it's another aspect of you staying at top of their mind. Oh yeah, you know, my realtor did such a good job. You know, aren't you looking for a house? You know, here, give them a call, give her a call. Just trying to stay at the top of people's mind. Something I was taught early on is when someone thinks of real estate, you know, the general public, you know, your neighbor, whoever, if they think of the word real estate or realtor, you want your name to be the first thing that pops up, very first thing. And unless you're staying relevant to them, it's just easy. It's just easy with time for that to fall off.
Absolutely. You know, guys, 92% of home buyers say that yes, they would use the same realtor again. 92%. And we all have that occasional client that, I mean, I've had people call me about selling their house and I'd be like, here, let me put you in touch with Cody, you know, or somebody else, because I don't want to work with that person. And that's going to happen. You know, sometimes personalities just clash, and that's okay. But 92% of people would use their same agent again. 92% of your past clients would use you when they go to list your house list their house in the future. But less than half do. I think it's like 40% actually do. And the reason for that is because you're not staying relevant, or we are not staying relevant, exactly as Cody said. So that's excellent advice. The other thing I would throw out there is ask for a review. I don't want to overwhelm people, and I hate asking for stuff. I'm not going to send people, say, you know, hey, can you review me on Google, review me on Zillow, review me on realtor.com, review me on Yelp or whatever other website. most people buying, unfortunately, are going to Zillow. And I say unfortunately because they are a direct competitor of ours at this point. If you're giving money to Zillow, please stop. They are our direct competitor. They just bought Showing Time. And what are they going to be doing with Showing Time? Like, why would they spend 500 million or whatever they spent on that? It's because they're getting information. And I wouldn't be surprised at all if Zillow opens up Showing Time at some point in the future so that unrepresented buyers can start scheduling appointments on houses. And when they call them, they're going to say, oh, you don't have an agent? Let one of our agents come out there and show you the house. And then at some point, they're going to stop selling us leads. But right now, they're selling us leads from our own listings. And so what's happening in the industry, and we're getting off topic here, but I think it's important. The real estate industry is changing right now because of the super hot sellers market that we're in. And I, as primarily as a listing agent, I am now getting calls from buyers saying, we fired our buyer agent because we bid on 20 different houses, didn't get one, and now we're going straight to the listing agent. And they're thinking, there's two different schools of thought. One guy came and he wanted to see my listing, and he's like, I can take 3% off. I was like, I'm not paying the buyer's agent. The seller's not paying the buyer's agent 3%. So I mean, whatever. He tried to make a lowball offer, and it got rejected. And then I've had other buyers contact me and say, I'm only dealing with listing agents because we want you as the listing agent to keep 3%, because that way maybe you'll give our offer more favor when you present it to the sellers. People are doing that. If you love being a buyer's agent, great, do it as long as you can. But if you want to be long-term successful in this business, it's time to start listing homes. And I'll get off my soapbox now. So any other final thoughts, you guys? Any other questions?
One thing, David, I wanted you to say about the getting a referral, just an idea. Once you get a video referral, you can go to rev.com and they can transcribe it. It's $1.25 for a minute. So if you got a minute or 2 minutes, they'll write it all out for you, so you don't even have to worry about it. So you take care of everything.
Thank you, Brent. That's a great thought. Thank you for adding that. We've got a question from Hari here saying, what if the appraisal comes in low, buyer does not have the money, but still wants the house? If the seller does not accept the price reduction, is there any way to convince the buyer or the lender to make it work? You could, if the appraisal is terrible, you can ask the bank to send a second appraisal out. Many banks, most banks probably, even if they do that, they're going to use the lower appraisal there to cover themselves. So one way to salvage a deal is potentially, I mean, if the appraisal is just junk, you could ask your buyer to switch to another company. And there are other companies out there that I listed a house recently for $300,000 because it was, I knew that the market would want to pay more than that, but the only other comps that were really good in the neighborhood were like in the 280s. This was a 3-bedroom home. And I was like, let's just push the envelope. We got an offer for $320. We had multiple offers over list price. One of them was for $320, but they were paying $5,000 in due diligence. So I told my sellers, hey, here's a free $5,000. We were going to be coming soon for 3 weeks. Their due diligence is only 3 weeks. Worst case scenario for you, we go on the market in 3 weeks anyway, and you're $5,000 richer. And I told the buyer's agent, I really felt bad about it. I said, I'm really concerned it's not going to appraise, and your buyer's going to be out $5,000 plus an appraisal, plus an inspection. They were all fine and good and wanted to carry. And lo and behold, the house appraised for $317,000 or something like that. It's absolutely mind blowing on a 2,000 square foot 3-bedroom house built in 1993 or whatever it was, with wood rot and other things going on. So maybe call up that guy's lender because something worked for him. I don't know. It seems iffy to me, but they got the deal done. So
I will say another idea behind, to combat, other than using a different lender, is if the buyer is able to, they can potentially switch loan types, which, you know, could help. So most people are trying to buy a home with FHA because they want to, you know, 3.5 down is nice. If they can't get the FHA appraisal to be where it needs to be, then they should be able, if they can swing it and come out of pocket a little bit more on the down payment and go to a conventional loan, if that's an option, you know, based on credit and the ratios. If they can come out of pocket to 5%, which I think is the minimum down for most conventional loans, that may be what it would take to get that appraisal to be higher. Because, you know, we all know that conventional appraisals are typically more favorable and easier to work with. So that's another method you could use to try to combat that situation that you're asking about.
Excellent. And your answer is much better than mine.
It's not much better. It's not, because I mean,
It was better. You're so humble.
oh yeah, okay.
Ask the question.
The
Sure.
Do you see or feel that appraisers are trying to help the deals? I mean, and I say that because I had some appraised, you know, properties deals that I thought, man, it's not going to appraise. It's never going to get there. And it comes in. And, you know, if I were doing that appraisal, it probably wouldn't come in. But yet they're coming in close to the mark, or even I've had some come in right on the numbers, right on the sales price. So do you see or feel like they are trying to get deals done and appraisals are coming in higher?
Um,
Go ahead, Cody.
yeah. So in my opinion, to answer that from my experience, I have not had a low appraisal in probably 3 or 4 years. And before that, it wasn't as uncommon to have appraisals come in that were low, right? But I haven't had an appraisal come in below sales price in probably 3 or 4 years. And I think that's because the market's so crazy right now, and we all know homes are appreciating faster than ever. It's just unbelievable, you know, because most of these appraisers know that each of these, you know, houses are multiple offer situations every time. And I think they take that into consideration, knowing that it's multiple offer. You know, that desirability is what drives price up, you know, along with supply and demand. So I think personally, and I'm not an appraiser and I don't have any, you know, close friends that are appraisers, but I feel like it's actually probably a little bit of an easier time right now for appraisers to justify giving values that need to be given, because they know the supply shortage in our market. So to answer your question, I think that is the case.
Yeah, I'm actually finding it very surprising, because I took the home appraiser license last year. It's mind blowing that my house that I have, it cost me over 835 grand, and it came appraised for 425 under the tax value. It's crazy.
Did they,
Wow.
they go inside the house already?
Yes, and a lot of data are wrong. He put the 5-bedroom. I don't have a 5-bedroom, and he put the wrong square foot. And he went 4 miles outside my neighborhood. And there is a house that was sold for 7 months ago, 1979 home, sold as is for $428,000. It's just I don't even know what to do with these guys. There was another appraisal. There is a 6-foot fence in my house, and she adjusted a 6-foot fence, not having fence. And then she put a house that doesn't even have a driveway as if they had a fence. I don't understand how these guys are even appraising. Since I have taken the class, all these appraisers, they don't write the report. They have a virtual assistant from, you know, some other Philippines, China, and they just train them and they give their MLS access. And these people do not have the knowledge that the appraiser actually have. I'm honestly, 90 hours of BS is what I have went through in that appraisal class. I learned more about appraisal in the MLS, our realtor class, than the actual appraisal class.
Yeah.
They don't.
I would contest that, Hari, because
I'm doing. Oh my God, I'm all over him, but it's not helping. I'm losing time because you know, Bank of America is like pushing and pushing. We have to close it in 60 days. I'm paying construction loan for you know, it's a lot of crazy things.
yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, I've seen some bad appraisals. I closed the house I had the listing a couple months ago. I think we closed in February actually, but I had listed it. I was like, the house is worth probably 305, but because of the market, let's list it at 325 and see what happens. First appraisal came back when we went under contract. We went under contract at 285. I mean, we went under contract at 315 or 313 or something like that, but the appraisal came in at 285. And the deal fell apart. We lost it because of the appraisal. And my sellers, I told them that your house is worth a lot more than 285. One of the comps that he used was on the same street, but it was a totally different style of a house, and it was from March of last year. Now we know, I mean, a $325,000 house a year ago is now close to 400, depending on the neighborhood. And there's one house in my neighborhood that I was going to list last March for 330 or 335, and we're getting ready to list now. They're finally ready to move. They decided to pull it off the market because of COVID, and same house, we're now putting it at 400. So, and we'll have multiple offers. I mean, it's absolutely insane that you would use a comp and not adjust for appreciation from a year ago. But it really depends on the appraiser. Appraisers are like realtors, and you could have all 15 of us or however many people are on this call today go by and do a broker price opinion, and we'd probably get 15 different numbers, except for me and Cody, because I learned from the best.
Right.
How do you handle in this market? How do you handle, I would love to sell my house and get out of it, but there's no way I'm going to try to buy right now in this craziness.
I don't blame you.
That is where I'm banging into every single day because there's so few houses available in our area.
Right. So the way I like to answer that is, a lot of people are wanting to sell, like you say, because they see how much equity they have. And so, they want to cash out and get that and maybe even try to move up. Right. Unfortunately, like you said, if they're trying to stay within the same market, the money you make on it, really, you're mostly going to be spending on the new house because that home is also appreciated in value. So there's some people that are actually wanting to sell and pocket the money and just rent until, they either decide on what they want to do or until the market kind of comes to a slowdown. But we all know how renting goes. It's, throwing your money
Yeah, well,
away.
see, there's like zero available to rent in our market area. So that's not an attractive option here. And it's like, I would like to sell, we need more space, etc. But there's no way I can, with the market as it is, we can't even find houses to sell, to buy.
Right.
It's
Well,
like everything is off the market here.
Yeah. Yeah, that is 100% true. I guess the other option is to build something, but we all know that land is almost non-existent and the value of land has doubled or tripled as well. So
yeah,
it's very frustrating. It's very frustrating. And, we're all dealing with buyers that, sellers too, but buyers that are just so discouraged right now. We basically have to, be their motivation that, hey, just hang in there. We're going to do something for you. And to answer your question, I don't know. I don't know if there is a good answer because supply is so low and homes are costing so much. So the money that you do make, you're really just washing it out with whatever you're buying. So other than moving,
there's been like virtually no housing built here since 2008,
right.
And we are now we made it number 6 on NAR's fastest growing rural area. We have everybody moving here from Atlanta and no houses.
Right.
So, I mean, literally, everybody asked me, well, how's the real estate market? I bet it's hot. It's like, well, there's nothing to sell. So it can't be as hot as it could be if we could find things to sell.
That's how buyer's agents become listing agents, because you've got these buyers moving up from Atlanta, and it's the same thing here. We have people leaving the center cities of New York, Chicago. People are moving down here. They're flocking down here. Like, it's ridiculous. And so,
well, for us, it's all the people wanting to get away from all the out-of-staters that have moved into Atlanta, thankfully, at least.
And
it's not all those people moving here. It's all the people going, we liked it, but now there's too many, liberals and Stacey Abrams and, not, a lot of people here don't like her and the way things went down over the election with her election group. So they're wanting
we've
to move
got
out into the country now that they're
we're up against the hour. I'm sorry, Cassandra, we've got to wrap this up. This was usually a 30-minute call, and it turned into an hour, but I'm grateful that you guys were all able to join. What I would encourage you guys to do is go out and look for off-market properties. Look for homes that expired 2 years ago. There's no expired listings now, but go out, send them letters, knock on their door, skip trace, find their phone numbers, talk to your neighbors and say, who do you want to know? Who do you know who's trying to sell? I put an offer for a buyer on a listing in my neighborhood recently that was rejected. These people are pre-qualified. And I put a post on our neighborhood Facebook page, which I never do business stuff on my neighborhood page. And I said, hey guys, if anybody's thinking of selling, I've got pre-approved buyers who want to move into this neighborhood. They want a 5-bed, 3-bath. They're pre-approved for $390. Please let me know. And I had 3 different people reach out and say, hey, I'm going to be moving in the next, 3 to 6 months, something like that. So go out there and find listings. You guys, you have buyers that are looking in a particular neighborhood or looking in a particular price point. Go out and knock on those doors and do whatever you have to do. Put flyers out saying, I have a buyer willing to pay $390,000 or whatever that number is for your house, and put it in their paper box or tape it to the front door or whatever. But go out and find the listings, because most agents aren't not going to do that. You'll be a hero for your buyer, and ultimately you'll get to be able to provide for your family. Guys, thank you all for joining. It was really great to see so many people. Cody, excellent job. I learn from you every time we talk like this, and just thank you for all the value that you add.
Oh, thank you, David. Thank you, Hari. Thank
Bye,
you,
guys.
everyone.
Thank you, Cody.